what we basically do is we train. We're a center. We train accredited. We have accredited courses that we train our entrepreneurs, and pretty much we deal with such issues of innovation, of disruption, of what disruption really means. And I'll also, as part of my presentation, share some of the questions or the frustrations that entrepreneurs have been raising with us. We are 5 years in running. We have, some of the beautiful things that has come out of the center is there's been some businesses that have been born or birthed out of the center. Some of them actually birthed as a result of the pandemic, and they're actually doing quite well. Some of the entrepreneurs who started businesses during this pandemic are actually doing very well. So it's quite interesting to look at. On the one hand, there's this pain that all of us are going through, where we are sort of, disrupted. Our businesses, our business models, our cash flow, all these things are disrupted. But on the other hand, I've been able to see businesses that have been birthed from nothing, quite frankly, and guys who came in and they said, we're going to do this thing, and they're actually doing quite well. They're getting orders, and their pain is not necessarily of money not coming through. Their pain is, how do we get the orders out there during the lockdown? So it's quite interesting to look at the two. But I'll share some of those learnings as we go along, and I'm hoping that I'll spend about 20 minutes at the most, and I'm hoping that maybe at the end, we'll then have some chance to interact, and share some thoughts. So one of the things when I looked at networks is, when I looked at the Silicon Valley network, is Silicon Valley as a concept was born out during the Great Depression of 1929 or so. So when America was going through was going through their Wall Street depression, the Wall Street had just collapsed. There was a whole lot of unemployment going on. And what then the one of the Stanford University professors decided to do as part of creating jobs, because at the time unemployment was sitting at about 20%. So you can imagine, during that depression, unemployment was sitting at 20%, and they decided to pull through a concept or a network or an incubator and they call it Silicon Valley, and they put in some entrepreneurs there. The objective of Silicon Valley at the time was to create jobs, to birth businesses that will create jobs. One of the things that I've just heard now is with our unemployment rate in our country, in South Africa, with this COVID pandemic, unemployment is going to shoot to about 50%. We are sitting at about 29% or so. There's some fears that, by the time we open up the economy, unemployment rate will be sitting at about 40 to 50%. At the moment in the US, their unemployment is almost at 20%, almost there, and for them it's a catastrophe. So Silicon Valley was born out of that. But at the time, you had a history of innovators who came before them: Henry Ford, Edison, Wright brothers. So by the time Silicon Valley was birthed, there was a rich culture of ancestors, of entrepreneurs who've come before the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. And as a result, when Silicon Valley took over, they took off from a background of founders who have laid the foundation before them. So there was a culture of entrepreneurship, there was a culture of innovation. There was this culture of go big, you either go big or go home. So that culture was already there. It was embedded. It was a culture that has already been set. So when you have your jobs, your gates coming through into Silicon Valley, that culture has already been birthed. So they're coming in there believing that this is a way of life. It's nothing new to them. So just bear that in mind, that when we do our own hubs, we need to bear that in mind, that the hubs that are doing very well didn't start from nothing. They started from a base of previous entrepreneurs and innovators. So when I looked at that, that was quite interesting. And then I sort of shifted to Shenzhen in China. So China is different to Silicon Valley because I mean, you know that China is a communist country, right? It's a communist country from. I mean, they take their philosophy from Marxism, Lenin, Stalin, and Chairman Mao. So it's been a communist country for a very long time. And now when they started to build Shenzhen, or this hub of, the hardware, a hub, and producing all these millionaires that are coming through, they didn't have a rich, unlike Silicon Valley, they didn't have a rich history of of entrepreneurs and innovators that came before them. It was a communist country. In fact, at some point, entrepreneurship was outlawed in China. I mean, I was reading a book, Alibaba, the house of Jack Ma. And in the book, he talks about how when he started Alibaba, the meetings as entrepreneurs, those meetings were outlawed. And they would go to meetings with toothbrush and toothpaste because the police would raid those meetings. And when you get arrested there and you go to jail, you at least have something to brush your teeth, which was quite funny. But it sort of shows that China comes from a different background altogether from the US. I mean, one is a free enterprise capitalist state. The other one is a communist state. But you have these two, Shenzhen and Silicon Valley, that are now neck to neck because when you do your research, you actually realize that China's entrepreneurs have somehow caught up with the US entrepreneurs. So how did they do it? They didn't have rich, ancestors of entrepreneurs and innovators. What they had is a government that was willing to protect and close off the economies of China, and through that they were able to, block your Facebook, your WhatsApp, your Amazon. You don't have those in China. So what the Chinese government did was we block off this market, and China's market is about 1.3, 1.4 billion people. So we block off, and then what we then do, that this is the Chinese government, what we then do is we give out lots of funding to entrepreneurs to start similar businesses as you would have in the US. So copy and paste what the Silicon Valley entrepreneurs are doing, bring it home, and then you have access to 1.4 billion market, and then off you go. So and that's how Shenzhen was born. It was born from a government that decided to say, we are going to allow entrepreneurs to operate, we're going to protect them, and there's obviously debates about whether protectionism works. I don't want to get into that, but what China is doing is it's saying, in order for us to birth entrepreneurs in China, we're going to have to protect them from foreign companies, fund them, and then give them the market. And that's what is being happening. Quite a lot of Chinese businesses have been born out of that. So America, or Silicon Valley, had a rich history of entrepreneurs and innovators who have been able to build wealth that is now funding Silicon Valley entrepreneurs. So in the US, the concept of money chasing ideas, where does this money come from? This money is a money that is birthed out of generations prior to Silicon Valley. So it's easier to fund Silicon Valley entrepreneurs because there's that generation that's pulling through that wealth. In China, there was no history of entrepreneurs, but there's a government that was very active in protecting the entrepreneurs and funding them. So when you come to South Africa, then you look at how then do we build these networks? How do we build these hubs? Because we can't really copy and paste what Silicon Valley is doing. We don't have that rich culture of entrepreneurs and innovators. In fact, when you look at it, most entrepreneurs, Godfrey included, most entrepreneurs and professionals in South Africa are first generation entrepreneurs in their families. So we don't have this rich history of entrepreneurs coming from my great grandparent or grandfather was an innovator, he came up with this. So we don't have that history, right? Often you'll find that today, when you look on social media, when you look at quite a lot of young upcoming entrepreneurs or young upcoming professionals, most of them, they'll always say, without fail, I'm the first graduate at home, I'm the first entrepreneur at home. And that is important to understand, that we don't have, unlike Silicon Valley, we don't have that foundation that Silicon Valley has, right? So if we don't have that, then what can we do? Can we copy and paste what China is doing? Unfortunately, I'm not so sure if our government has taken the approach of saying, we're going to close off your Uber, we're going to close off your Googles, we're going to close off. That they have not adopted that approach. So we don't have a government that is willing to say we're going to close off other entrepreneurs from outside, and we're going to fund you, and you have about access to about 55 to 60 million market. They didn't do that. So how then do we build networks in South Africa? How do we build these hubs? How do we build these incubators? And I think one of the unique things that in the absence of having a rich history of previous entrepreneurs, and by saying a rich history of previous entrepreneurs, I'm not discounting your Richard Maponyas, your Herman Mashabas. Those did very well, and we appreciate what they did. But I'm talking about the number, the scale. We don't have that in our country. But then what we have that we can leverage on that is quite unique and different to the Chinese or the American Silicon Valley or Shenzhen is one of the things that I've picked up is we have this huge ability as entrepreneurs in South Africa to pull funds together. There's this stokvel funds that we have. So we might not necessarily have a rich, a great grandfather or who was an entrepreneur. We might not necessarily have a government that is willing to close off the market and give us access to the market and the funding. But what we do have and what we really need to leverage on is our ability to come close as small networks. I mean, if you look at the last time I checked, the stokvel market in South Africa is almost 1 billion. If I can't remember the numbers, but I know it's a huge market. So what this says is we actually do have the ability to raise funding, right? Over and above what the government is putting on the table, we do have that ability to raise funding, and that we can use as a way of funding startups and a way of building networks, as a way of surviving as entrepreneurs. So as I thought of, sort of wanted to bring that aspect into my presentation because it's important. Because one of the things that I've seen when I discuss with a lot of entrepreneurs, not only South Africa but so on in most countries, is they are trying to emulate what Silicon Valley is doing, but building bricks and mortar, it's not going to work because we don't have that rich history, right? And I think what we do need and what we have is we have ourselves, and that's the importance. We need to leverage on our ability to work together, right? And as a result of whether it's Silicon Valley, whether it's Shenzhen, whether it's South Africa, there's been quite a lot of businesses that have been birthed during a crisis, during a recession. So you can talk about the Great Depression of 1929 in the USA that gave birth to Silicon Valley as a concept, where IBM and all GE comes from, General Electric. They were birthed during a crisis. Fast forward to the Y2K, year 2000 crisis, a bubble. There were quite a lot of businesses that were birthed during the bubble, just after the bubble, 2000, 2001. And fast forward to 1998 financial crisis, there was quite a lot of businesses. Your WhatsApp was birthed during the financial crisis. Uber was birthed during the financial crisis. So it's the opportunities that are coming out. And if you're an entrepreneur, you can either see pain or you can see opportunities. And I always use this example of mine workers who go on strike. And they decide on Thursday we are going on strike. An entrepreneur in the mine workers will say, awesome, we're going on strike. I'm going to get myself a braai stand. I'm going to stock on some boerewors. I'm going to stock on some rolls. Because at the strike, during the day, it's hot. You'll all be sweaty and you'll want something to eat. And I'll bring my braai stand and I'll braai some meat and I'll sell it to you, right? When others are seeing pain, others are seeing opportunity. And it's during this time that there are quite a lot of opportunities that are coming out that you need to be able to take advantage of. So instead of crying and complaining that you have been disrupted, start looking at where are the new opportunities coming through. Because what this pandemic is doing is it's redefining quite a lot of opportunities. If you are into for instance, if you are into, and some of these are some of the entrepreneurs that we've been working with in the center. Some of them are running B&Bs, for instance, and because the tourism space flights are cancelled, They're sitting with rooms that are not rented out. And what do they do? So you can either sit and sulk and complain to the government, open up, or you can then look at what are the other opportunities that you can do. Convert your BNB into a space for people who are in quarantine. So I suspect I might have come through, for instance, I might have come through somebody who's infected. I don't want to go back home and infect my family. Where do I go, right? Here's this place, it's been accredited. I call, do you have room? Yes. Reduced rate? Yes. I'm coming through for the next few days until I'm sure that I'm not infected. So you then shift your business model towards that. We have had students in our cohort who decided to start sanitation products, right? And those are moving very fast. So you can sit and say, oh, but this thing's not working. I'm disrupted. We are all going through this. What you need to then do is to say, where are the opportunities? So there's quite a lot of businesses that are being birthed out of a crisis. And this is where, when you are in a network, you are in a hub, you are able to sit together and brainstorm and come up with ideas and throw these ideas on the whiteboard. And you are able to say, okay, I'll focus on this, you'll focus on that. And that's the power of networks. If you look at, in fact, all of these businesses, WhatsApp, Facebook, Apple, they were all born out of a network, right? They were all born out of a community of entrepreneurs who are doing more or less the same thing. And some of them were making mistakes. And because we're part of the community, we're able to see the mistakes that they are doing, and we avoid replicating those very same mistakes. So it's important that when you go through a situation that you're going through now, the last thing that you want to do is to hibernate, isolate yourself, hide yourself. That's the biggest mistake that you can do, because when you hibernate yourself from everybody else, it's like a hole. It's like a one small black hole. When you hibernate yourself, the longer you stay in that hole, the bigger it grows. And the bigger it grows, the more you sink in. So this is where you actually need to come out. You need to talk to your peers, other entrepreneurs, and understand what they're going through. So in conclusion, I just want to go through the 5 tips, and then maybe we can then do some of the discussions. I think the first tip that I would give you is let go of the ego, right? Let go of this thing that I'm struggling, and therefore people are going to laugh at me, and therefore I'm not going to go out there. I'm not going to expose myself to people out there. I'm going to try to battle this thing by myself. It's important that people don't see me struggle, because if they see me struggle, then they'll see, oh, so I'm not the superstar that I was proclaiming to be. I'm not making these millions of turnovers that I was proclaiming to be making, because now everything is shut, and now I have to lay off staff. Now I'm no longer this superhero, right? And what you then do is you shut yourself out, and you think you can weather this thing out by yourself. This is not going to happen. What you need to do is you need to come out, and we are all of us going through this. You're not the only one going through this. All of us are going through this, not only in South Africa, all over the world, right? We are all in the same boat. And what will help quite a lot, and what I think I've seen a lot of entrepreneurs, some in my network, some in the academy, is depression levels are going high. People are firing staff. Tears are rolling down. You feel bad about yourself. You can't pay salaries. You have to lay off some of the guys who have been working with you for a very long time. You try and fight with the UIF. The payers are not coming through. Everything, it seems like everything is a struggle, right? And you're trying to battle this thing out on your own, and you feel defeated. And therefore, what you then do is you don't ask for help. You don't talk to anyone, and you sink into this hole that I was referring to. And it becomes bigger and bigger and bigger, because remember, this thing is not ending anytime soon. In fact, this is just the beginning, right? We're gonna have to make do with this pandemic for the next 12 months, because that's how long it will take for us to get a vaccine that will be distributed throughout the world. And in the absence of that, social distancing, quarantine, quite a lot of businesses are going to be affected. So it's going to be a long slog. This is just the beginning. We have another 12 months to go, 12 months or so to go. So you can't hibernate and expect that you'll weather this thing out all by yourself in the next 12 months. It's not going to happen. Let go of the ego and come out and ask for help, right? How do you do this? Please advise me on how to go about this. And the beauty about having networks and hubs is it's got those people who are experienced, who have been there before you, and who understand what this means. And when you ask, when you open up, when you ask for help, that's when people will be able to advise you to say, no, don't do that. Don't worry. It's happened before, and just weather it out. You'll be fine. This is entrepreneurship. You're not the only. So ask for help. Open up. Come out of the closet and be open about what challenges you're going through. You're not going to win this by yourself. We are all in this thing together, and we can defeat this all together. Don't try and be a superhero. You're going to sink when you try and be a superhero. And you need those networks, and that's very important. Number two, which is a spin-off from number one, because you have now decided to let go of your ego, you need to be practical. You need to downsize, right? So all these fancy things that you need to have that you're paying for, because now money is too tight to mention, you have to let go, right? You have to downsize on quite a lot of things. We have our classes at WeWork in Rosebank. When this whole thing, started, even before the lockdown started, we decided we're not doing this. We're gonna have to go online. So we moved our classes online, and we asked our students. We communicated with them. Initially, it was a bit of a pain because we're all used to physical classes, but when we moved our classes online, it was initially painful. But we've been able to weather. So far, we've been able to go. So you need to downsize. We had to cancel our membership at WeWork. We had to cancel quite a number of things and subscribe to those that will keep us going for the next 12 months. So our approach has always been, this is going to last for the next 12 months. If it lasts less than 12 months, it's a bonus, right? If it goes all the way to 12 months, mentally we are prepared for that. And we had to reconfigure our business model. There's little time to complain. There's little time to moan. We need to focus and downscale what we need to downscale and move from there. So it's going to be very important that you minimize your costs, reduce where you need to take back the car. If you have to take back the car, let go of the office, go work from home. Even when it's level 2, even when it's level 1, keep on going back working from home until your cash flow starts to recover. You're gonna have to, somehow let go of some people, unfortunately, or see if you can downscale their salaries if possible. Downscale their salaries or let them fully go. Right? You're gonna have to do that. But what you shouldn't downscale. What you shouldn't downscale is your customers. Right? So try and see how you can still maintain your customers, maintain those relationships. If they place in orders, try and see if you can negotiate a deposit. Some of the clients can be able to pay for a deposit before you do the work. Negotiate for a deposit. Negotiate for deferred payments, right? If you can. So you're gonna have to do some negotiations with your suppliers, with your customers, as a way of downscaling, but also having a tight cash flow. So it's important that you do that, right? That you keep a very close eye on your cash flow. Let go of what's not important, downscale where you need to downscale, and try and see if you can't negotiate with your customers. Number 3, continue to market your business. So what you don't want is, you don't want to get into a crisis mode, a complaining mode, that you forget to go out there and market your business. Market your business to those that still need your services, right? And use your digital space, your website, your social media. Look at, where are your customers? What type of customers are you serving? Where are they? Are they a LinkedIn type of a customer? Are they Twitter type of a customer? Are they Facebook? Are they Instagram type of a customer? So you need to be visible. Be visible digitally. Be visible online. Put up some campaigns, a COVID campaign, a special, whatever the case might be, so that your customers or your potential customers can see that you understand what the challenges are going through. Even if they don't buy, but they can get to see that this brand is visible and this brand is conscious of what's going on. And it sort of it appreciates the difficulties that our customers are going through. So the last thing that you don't want to do is not market at all. Market as far as you can. So don't freeze, right? Don't freeze. Don't just close yourself out. Market. Brainstorm with guys in the network, and that's a beauty. Brainstorm with them. They might have some ideas. They might have one other thing that you might even. I'm just thinking about it now. Is barter in the network? There might be. I don't have money. You don't have money. You need a website. I can do a website, but you also need my services. Why don't we barter? Let's exchange. There's no money, but we can actually do some services together, and let's see if we can barter our services, right? And you get the business going. Look for new markets elsewhere if you can, But there's a lot of synergies amongst yourselves. Start looking amongst yourselves as a network about the services that you have, synergies that you might have. For second last, working teams, right? You, as I said at the beginning, you're not going to do this by yourself. You need a strong team of people, even if it's not necessarily the team that you employ, but you need a team of networks around you. You need people around you. It's going to be, at the beginning of the lockdown, it all looked so romantic. You're with your partner, you're with your family, you haven't been spending time with them. It's all romantic. We are together, we're having supper, dinner together, everything is fine. Week 4, week 5, it's starting to get mental now. Your mental strength is tested, right? You haven't been out, you're frustrated. It's now your mental resilience is required far more now than ever before. And how are you going to win the mental game or the mental strength? You're going to need people around you. You're going to need people who are going to hold each other's hands and soldier on. By yourself, you will struggle. But if you have people that you work with, hang around people that are positive, that have that energy to keep you going, right? If you have low energy, have 5 or 6 people that have high energy. They will dilute your low energy. In no time, your energy will go up. Don't try and hang around low energy people. And I think hubs, networks are important when it comes to that, because if you have people that are high energy, when you are depressed, when you feel like giving up, when you feel like this is not working, you go to the network, you plug in, and they're able to elevate you. And I've had students in my academy a few weeks ago that were saying, I'm giving up. I can't do this. It's too much. I'm struggling with the business. I can't focus at class. And we're discussing. I said, you even more that you need to be in the network. Don't isolate yourself. Be in the network. Be in your group. Their energies are high. They will pull you out, right? So the people. So be conscious of the people that you hang around with. At this point in time, you don't need people who are complainers. At this point in time, you don't need people who are whining, complaining. I've stopped watching the news. I've stopped following on Twitter. I've reduced because it's complaints everywhere. It's depressing. I need to protect my mental strength. And I told myself, I'm cutting news, I'm cutting newspapers, I'm cutting social media. I need to focus. I need to hang around people who are positive now far more than ever. So I don't find myself sucked into this depression mode of complaining and missing opportunities that I could be seeing if I was in the right state of mind. So be selective about the people that you're going to hang around with, particularly at this point in time. Be selective about the books you read, what you watch on the net, YouTube videos that you watch. Be selective about that. You need your mental strength and resilience. The test is happening now. So it's important that you hang around. And I hope that this, the network that you guys are having, you are consciously, pumping yourself up. It's important that you do that. Lastly, you need to get a mentor, right? Again, as part of your team, as part of people that you hang around with, you need to get a mentor. Get somebody who's done very well, who is ahead of you, and get from them, ask them questions. Let go of the ego. Ask them questions. It's tough. I don't know what to do. Do you mind sparing 30 minutes? What should I do? Right? Read those books. There's quite a lot of free e-learning material on EDX, where you can register, businesses in chaos. Be out there, get somebody who's going to take you with, it's important that you get somebody who's, be a student. Put yourself to say, I haven't been here. Most of us have not been here. How do we weather the storm, right? Talk to people who have done this before. How do I weather the storm? Get a mentor. Mark Zuckerberg is mentored by Bill Gates. Bill Gates is mentored by Warren Buffett. Buffett was mentored by, I forgot the guy who wrote The Intelligent Investor, right? So all these people, I mean, when you listen to Jeff Bezos' interviews, he always, without fail, mentions Warren Buffett. All the successful people have mentors, right? They didn't just get there by some osmosis or by some luck. They have people that they defer to when they need advice. They have people that they go to and they say, the Senate is on my case about this privacy issue thing. You are Bill Gates, you have been there before. How do I deal with this thing, right? And Bill Gates will shower you with his wisdom, and you go out there, you deal with the Senate, and you weather the storm, and we forget about privacy issues, and we move on, right? It's important that you have people who've been there before, and talk to them. Send them an email. In the network, there are those who've been there before. But most importantly, understand that if you want to go very far, you're not going to go far alone. You're going to go far with others, a mentor, people in your circles. That's how far. If you want to go fast, go by yourself. But if you want to go very far, we're gonna have to do this as a group. And I'm very happy that there's sessions like this where we come together and we discuss. My parting shot comes from Jack Ma, and his message is quite straightforward. 2020 as an entrepreneur is the year to survive. There is no making millions and millions of profits here. You just need to stay alive. Your goal this year is to move from day to day to day, which will work out to a month, to month, to month, until there's a vaccine that is being found, until this thing comes to an end, until we can now congregate in groups and things get back to normal. Your goal for now is not to be a millionaire. Forget about it. Your goal for now is to survive the pandemic. Survive the pandemic, you are a millionaire. Thank you very much. Any questions?
Fantastic. Roche, thank you very, very much. Godfrey is just busy getting the next speaker lined up, so I'm going to do the questions. So again, for anyone, if you're on Facebook, I can see the screen here. If you pop in a question there, otherwise, if you're on Zoom, pop a question into the chat bar. But until we do that, until we get some questions in, I've got a question for you, Roche, that I took a note while you were talking. So you started with Silicon Valley, which is obviously interesting. Everyone can relate, or everyone can understand. We've seen, as you say, Apple, Microsoft, etc., come out of there. A question when you come back to where we are now, and the fact that a lot of people are having to lay off staff, or having to either reduce hours or reduce salaries and negotiate that sort of position with them. With Silicon Valley, I know, and I don't know the exact model, so my question is around the model, but a lot of those businesses and the early startups did a lot of equity sharing with their employees. So there's a lot of as I say, goodwill, but there's a lot of stakeholder participation from employees, because there is a benefit to them in the success of the organization. So could you, if you have, I know it's not quite exactly there, but because you've gone through that, I thought I'd pose the question while we wait. So what does that model look like, and what do you think we could apply from a South African perspective in that sense?
So it's quite interesting. I mean, I was reading on the story of the place it's a rental place. What they did is of WeWork, and I mean there's a whole scandal around that. But one of the things that they did is when they started building. Because what happens with Silicon Valley businesses is because they burn quite a lot of cash at the beginning, and because they are prototyping all this ideas, and some of them fail, and what happens is, as your prototype, you're burning quite a lot of cash because you're spending quite a lot of money. So you then end up having to go through the second round of funding, the third round of funding. And as time goes on, you need a solid team of people who are not just there for a paycheck, because you understand that building a business is tough, and there will be instances where you won't have money to pay salaries because you are still starting up, and the money that you have will pay for development costs and all this kind of things. But that money gets finished quickly, right? So as you go through your second and third round, what you then need to do is, because you need this team, because this team is now built some synergies, they understand working together, they like each other, there's that rapport going. You need to keep that team going, because once you run out of money, you don't want the team to disintegrate and look for work elsewhere. So what you then do is you then give them stock options in the business, because now they understand each other, they like each other, they love the vision of the business and where it's going, and you issue them stock options, and obviously that binds them. They stay in there, and I mean, often you'll find that the founders will always keep the majority shareholding, right? So, but it gets very tricky, because on the one hand, you have brought in, you have given equity away. You have given equity away to investors. If you're fortunate enough, you have some angel investors who just funded in and are not taking equity. But you have given equity away, and obviously, as you give equity to your team, it kind of dilutes the external investors. So there's a whole lot of negotiation that needs to happen. But when you give equity, either you give equity from your own shareholding to your team, right, or you list. But what I've seen happen with most of the startups, your Airbnb, your Uber, your WeWork, the model has always been, first round is other people's money, and once we get this thing going, to have the core team, the developers, the chief operations officer, let's give them stock options. And of course, that keeps the when things are tough, even when I'm not getting paid, but at least I know that through sticking it out and putting my best, the equity, my share of the equity is going to go up when things turn around. So it's sort of like a strategic move to keep the guys in the business even during difficult times. But even when they don't get paid, they're able to take the punches. Pretty much like what's happening now. It hasn't really been quite a huge culture in South Africa from what I've seen. Our entrepreneurs, is I own everything, or I rather own everything of zero than share with others. So I think it's a culture that we still need to bring through, especially at startup phase, to say it's the three of us, we have nothing, we are building this together, I'm giving you equity, let's go.
Excellent. Thank you very much. I'll go and explore that, because that's really something I'm quite interested in.
There's something in there. Thanks for raising it up, Andrew.
No problem. So we have a few questions here. So some great comments as well, Roche. It was a great positive presentation by Roche. Agree fully about solopreneurs. Excellent content and use of case studies. So fantastic. Two questions I have, actually three. So I'll start with a question from Guy. It is, do you publish measures of success of LORA programs, or how do you measure success?
So what we have decided, and thanks for the question, Guy. I think what we have decided to do is we have looked at different models. China, how they're doing entrepreneurship, the USA, how they're doing entrepreneurship. And we've decided we're going to do it slightly different. It's still entrepreneurship, but it's slightly different. What we've decided to do with our entrepreneurs is we have picked on 5 or 6 big challenges that our country faces. So we have decided to model our entrepreneurship program against challenges that our country faces. There's climate change, there's water, there's health, there's education, there's energy, right? Electricity. And also we have these pillars to say these are the big challenges that Africa faces, pretty much that the world faces. But we have decided to limit it to the continent. And we decided to say, and of course, in these pillars, there's poverty and there's unemployment. But you don't solve poverty directly. You solve it by solving these key pillars. And through solving these key pillars, you're creating jobs. And through creating jobs, you're solving unemployment and poverty at the same time. So what we have decided to do is we have decided to have these 6 pillars that we have, and we look for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs that come to our academy. We say these are the pillars, and we are looking at solving these problems, right? So you come through our program, we'll give you the content, but most importantly, you're going to work as groups. So you don't come there and you just work on your own and you leave. We work as groups, and in each group there's a mentor that is assigned to each group, and there are challenges where this group, say for instance 6 or 8 of them, they come and they pitch on a constant basis, based on the module that we do. So if we do entrepreneurship, they come and they pitch. This is the problem. We have studied that. We understand the issue of energy. We understand that the world in 2050 will be 7, 8, or 10 billion. 10 billion people in 2050. There's going to be a huge need for energy. How do we scale up the energy without increasing fossil fuels? Alternative energy on this. So our model is entrepreneurship for emerging economies. It's not entrepreneurship for the US, it's not entrepreneurship for China, it's entrepreneurship for emerging economies. So we are encouraging our entrepreneurs to come up with a solution that faces us so that those businesses become relevant to us. How do we measure the success? Well, we are still 5 years into the program. What we have managed to do, though, is we have managed to come up with some very good ideas, or solutions rather. We managed to come up with some very good solutions which have been prototyped, and now it's obviously a question of how do we get funding and how do we scale them out. So for us, that's our success. Identifying key important. We don't want somebody who's going to come up with the next Uber. We don't want somebody who's going to come up with the next Facebook. And we are happy for those who are going to do that. We celebrate them. We are happy for them. We are looking for entrepreneurs that are going to be impactful, because in them succeeding, they are also solving a problem that's very important in our communities and in the continent. So those are our pillars, and we measure our entrepreneurs around those pillars.